Firstly, we got Jessica Alba. Both Jessica Alba and Gwyneth Paltrow are lifestyle gurus that focus on clean beauty and natural products. So you'd think that these two would be the best of friends, considering they have so much in common. But it seems to be the exact opposite, and these two essentially hate each other. Gwyneth of course owns Goop, while Jessica Alba owns The Honest Company, which aims to emphasize household products to supply the marketplace for ethical consumerism. And they actually sell her products in Shoppers Drug Mart here in Canada, so that's very cool. Their relationship was put to the test on the set of their TV series, Planet of the Apps, where it was made clear that they hate each other. One insider claimed that the pair were like oil and water, to the point where it was shocking that they could agree on anything. Both women also took jabs at the other's company. Paltrow made a point to say Goop was an ethical company, contrasting legal claims that The Honest Company was not. Jessica Alba responded by claiming Goop was only for the wealthy and that The Honest Company caters to real women. Of course, these disagreements spilled over to the show. Jessica is very hands-on while producing, while Gwyneth prefers to delegate tasks. The series never made it past the first season, I wonder why. Next up, Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow have been throwing subtle digs at each other for years, and it's clear that they do not like one another. It seems that Martha might actually be the one throwing most of the shade, if you can believe it. The feud started in 2014 when Martha was asked about Gwyneth for some reason. When speaking to Porter magazine, Stewart said that Paltrow, quote, just needs to be quiet. She's a movie star. If she were confident in her acting, she wouldn't be trying to be Martha Stewart. Clearly, Martha thinks that Gwyneth is trying to take her place as a home and lifestyle guru. But that's not all. Martha took another swipe at Paltrow when she published a spread in Martha Stewart Living about a pie called Conscious Coupling, which is clearly a reference to Paltrow's conscious uncoupling from her ex-husband Chris Martin. Paltrow decided to hit back by making a Goop recipe for, quote, jailbird cake to reference Martha's time behind bars. Martha then took another dig on a 2017 episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen when Martha asked, who's Goop? Classic Mariah Carey stuff, if you get that joke. Next up, Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is another celebrity that has shaded Gwyneth Paltrow in the past. Whether it was serious or not is the real question. It's been said before that Gwyneth does not have a good memory, as she often forgets that she's met or even worked with people before. One of the people she's forgotten was Sebastian Stan, even though they were both in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they even starred in the same movies at one point, in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Even with that, Gwyneth still did not remember who he was. Sebastian exposed this to the world on Instagram. While they were both at Paris Fashion Week, they snapped a photo together in a big group, and his caption read, quote, glad I got to reintroduce myself to Gwyneth Paltrow for the third time, adding, quote, we're in the same film, to make things even more shady. Hopefully Gwyneth took the shade well and doesn't forget him again. How could you forget him? Next up, NASA. Yep, you read that right. Even NASA has shaded Gwyneth in the past. It all started when Goop began promoting body vibe stickers, which according to Gizmodo, claimed to use, quote, NASA's spacesuit material to rebalance the energy frequency in our bodies. But it turned out that it was a load of BS, like pretty much everything else on the site. After some backlash, Body Vibes got rid of the NASA claim, claiming it was an error by the distributor. Goop addressed the error in a statement, writing, quote, our content is meant to highlight unique products and offerings, find open-minded alternatives, and encourage conversation. Which I guess is exactly what happened, because hey, we're talking about it at the end of the day. Next up, Vanity Fair. Gwyneth Paltrow generally has a pretty good relationship with the tabloids. However, her relationship with Vanity Fair is so bad that she tried to get her A-list friends to blacklist the magazine. Apparently, the entire feud between them was because the magazine published a story about Gwyneth that was not approved by her. And although it's a nice gesture for a magazine to show you their stories beforehand, it's certainly not something that celebrities are entitled to. According to Page 6, the feud was between Paltrow and the magazine's editor at the time, Graydon Carter. She was asked by Carter to collaborate on the content for their cover story, but Gwyneth decided to refuse because they had recently done an unflattering story on one of her ex-partners, Brad Pitt. When Paltrow turned down the offer, he decided to go along with publishing the piece anyway, much to Paltrow's dismay. In response to this, Gwyneth sent out an email to a slew of her A-list friends, telling them to blacklist the magazine. The tab reported that one quote from the email read, quote, Vanity Fair is threatening to put me on the cover of their magazine. If you are asked for quotes or comments, please decline. Also, I recommend you all never do this magazine again. Apparently, this semi-threatening email did not make Carter back down, and it only made him want to publish the piece even more, commenting that the media does not have to look out for celebrities. Next up, Joan Rivers. Everyone knows that you should not mess with Joan Rivers unless you want to feel the heat, and it seems that Paltrow learned that the hard way. Joan's show Fashion Police is where she dished out most of the shade about celebrities. I miss that show so much. The feud between them started when Gwyneth made some digs at Joan's expense. In 2013, Gwyneth told Harper's Bazaar that she'd, quote, never do Botox again because she looked crazy, which is fine, But then she added, quote, "I looked like Joan Rivers." And of course, after making comments like that, Joan's gonna clap back. And she took it out on a number of Gwyneth's outfits on Fashion Police. After some back and forth, Joan went on an episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. When asked which celebrity gave the worst criticism of Fashion Police, Joan said, quote, "The worst criticism was Gwyneth Paltrow. She came in and yelled at us, but she stood up. She can't sit down because she's got to stick up her rear end." Adding, quote, the world's most beautiful woman voted by Helen Keller and Stevie Wonder. So clearly it's more than just a little friendly fire, and the two really do not like each other. Next up, Simon Stevens. Simon Stevens is the chief executive of Britain's National Health Service, and we're talking about him today because he called out Gwyneth for the health treatments that she was promoting through Goop. During a 2020 event at Oxford, he took the time to trash the claims that Gwyneth was making on her Goop blog, along with her Netflix series, The Goop Lab. Stevens claimed that Gwyneth conveyed, quote, "considerable risks to health because she gave credence to, quote, quacks, charlatans, and cranks while promoting various untested wellness products and services." Some of his least favorite treatments promoted by Gwyneth are colonic irrigation and DIY coffee enema machines, which sound truly horrible. Stevens stressed that almost none of the claims she makes are backed up by science. Stevens definitely has a point, because Goop was actually forced to pay $145,000 in a settlement for false advertising, so he's not the only one doubting what she's selling. And lastly, Gwyneth Paltrow herself. Because Gwyneth was born into fame and fortune, she's grown up with the press and people watching her every move. That's why she makes a point to care as little as possible about what people say about her and do her own thing. However, this free attitude does get her into a lot of trouble with the public that find her snobby and out of touch. Sometimes Gwyneth can even find herself pretty insufferable. She told the Sunday Times' Style magazine that it took until age 40, quote, "to start getting my head out of my." Gwyneth has been open about the fact that fame changed her for the worst, and she didn't like herself a lot of points in the past. Apparently, after the success of Shakespeare in Love, she got insanely more famous and became her worst self. When speaking about her post-Oscar life, she said, quote, "Look, I'm famous. I get famous person treatment. You don't want to be an a-hole, but slowly if people start removing obstacles for you, if you live in a world where you never have to sit in line, where people don't confront you, where they don't tell you the truth, that's what you become. That's what I became. Luckily, my dad burst my bubble for me in a way that it could never be reconstructed." In at number 10, didn't earn it. If you didn't already know, Gwyneth was born into Hollywood royalty, which definitely gave her a leg up in the business. Paltrow's late father, Bruce Paltrow, was a writer, director, and producer known for television shows like The White Shadow and Saint Elsewhere. He even had Gwyneth star in one of his last movies. Then there's Paltrow's mother, Blythe Danner, who is a Tony and Emmy Award winner who has appeared in countless films. But that's not all. Gwyneth's godfather is legendary director Steven Spielberg. Since she has so many connections, it's no surprise that she went into acting. But when accused of getting a helping hand, Paltrow denies this and claims that her parents did not help her whatsoever. When asked about her familial connections, Gwyneth said, quote, my father said, "You are completely on your own, so he never gave me anything. I never had any supplementation, he never helped me with my rent, I never had a trust fund." But I'm not convinced she didn't get a huge head start. In at number 9, full of herself. Since Gwyneth is an A-list actress, it makes sense that she has insane amounts of confidence, but some of her comments about herself have made people roll their eyes. She once stated that she had the quote butt of a 22-year-old stripper with a completely serious face. She also talks of her ability to stay fit and eat clean like it's not something that has happened in part because of her privileged life. She told Elle, quote, "It's so much easier to sit home and not exercise and criticize other people. What I love is inspiring people." She then commented, quote, "I am who I am. I can't pretend to be somebody who makes $25,000 a year." Even adding that working as an actress as a mother is, quote, much harder than having a regular job and being a parent, which is total BS. In at number 8, Goop. Gwyneth started the Goop blog as a way to connect with her fans and share tips on how to live like her. But then things got a little too wacky and Gwyneth started to promote questionable and scammy products. Some of these products are a candle that smells like a vajayjay and a jade egg that's inserted up there to balance your hormones. But not only are these products strange, some of them can actually be dangerous. And the worst part is that almost nothing that Goop promotes is backed by science, but the site makes their claims as fact. Medical professionals have even gone out of their way to disavow many of the claims that Gwyneth makes on her blog. The company was even forced to pay $145,000 to settle a false advertising lawsuit. And at number 7, out of touch. Even though Gwyneth is an A-list celebrity, which means she lives a life we can't even fathom, it seems that she is particularly out of touch. and there are endless quotes from her that people use to prove this fact. The hate against her is so bad that Star magazine gave her the title of the most hated celebrity. In response, Gwyneth said, quote, "I'm really effing good at my job. People who are interesting and good know that, and that's all that matters." Some other comments that made people cringe were when she said she would, quote, "rather die than let my kid eat a cup of soup." Someone even did a financial analysis of one of her cookbooks, and it was determined that it would cost a family roughly $300 per day to eat as Gwyneth suggests. And at number 6, Oscar curse. Many in the business did not respect Gwyneth for her acting until she won an Oscar for leading actress in the movie Shakespeare in Love. But even though she reached the peak of her celebrity after that moment, many believe she was cursed after that Oscar win. Firstly, many people in general just didn't agree with the Academy's choice. Glenn Close was even quoted saying, quote, "I remember the year Gwyneth Paltrow won over that incredible actress who was in Central Station, Fernanda Montenegro, and I thought, what? It doesn't make sense." Not only that, but the movies she starred in after the fact were all flops, and Gwyneth herself has even acknowledged that she made some really bad choices. She said that after her win she felt that she could do no wrong and she took anything that was offered to her, when those were roles she would never take today. Halfway at number 5, she disrespects her Marvel movies. One of her most notable roles was playing Pepper Potts in the MCU, but although the public has this strong affiliation, it seems that Gwyneth can hardly remember all the Marvel movies that she's been in. In a now infamous moment from Jon Favreau's cooking series The Chef Show, Favreau, who acted alongside Paltrow in Spider-Man Homecoming, brought up a moment from the film. Gwyneth then told him that she wasn't in that movie, which is odd because she was. She later addressed the mix-up on Jimmy Kimmel, where she said she was confused because she thought he was talking about the Avengers movies. She then revealed she's never even seen Spider-Man Homecoming at all. And if that's true, I guess it makes sense that Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man, had to reintroduce himself to Gwyneth when she forgot who he was. And at number 4, entitled. Gwyneth usually has a pretty good relationship with the media because of her famous connections, but that all changed when she had an incident with Vanity Fair that gave her a bad name in the industry. Apparently, the entire feud between them was because the magazine published a story about Gwyneth that was not approved by her. And although it's a nice gesture for a magazine to show you their stories beforehand, it is certainly not something that celebrities are entitled to. Gwyneth was asked by the magazine's editor to collaborate on the content for their cover story, but Gwyneth decided to refuse because they had recently done an unflattering story on one of her ex-partners, Brad Pitt. When Paltrow turned down the offer, he decided to go along with publishing the piece anyways, much to Paltrow's dismay. In response to this, Gwyneth sent out an email to a slew of her A-list friends, telling them to blacklist the magazine, saying in part that the magazine, quote, "threatened to put me on the cover." Quite a threat. And at number 3, she's a diva on set. This one isn't much of a shocker, but apparently she's a real pain on set. I can imagine things were worse after her Oscar win. She was always used to having things go her way because of her famous parents, but on set she would demand to have the best lighting in every single shot and get in everyone's face to make sure she looked better than all her co-stars. Her diva attitude also transferred over to everyday life. According to the Daily Mail, when she visits the spa, Paltrow demands that the shower stalls are cleaned out before she even steps foot in them. She also constantly demands to be paid the most on her movies, even though so few of them are box office hits. And at number 2, Weinstein connection. Gwyneth has a very controversial relationship with disgraced producer Harvey Weinstein. Her and Weinstein were pretty closely tied because they worked together on Shakespeare in Love, along with a handful of other projects. But she did make quite a statement when she decided to speak out against him when other women were coming forward with their stories. She revealed that she had also been put in uncomfortable situations by him, and that's the reason that she stopped working with him. Although many people supported her courageous decision, a lot of people felt it was BS because she had supported him for so many years beforehand when his behavior was basically an open secret. And finally at number 1, she's not a good lead. Gwyneth has starred in a lot of movies over the years, but it seems that the movies where she plays the lead roles do the worst, and the ones where she's the background character get the most traction. This has somewhat given her a reputation of not being able to lead a movie, especially since the few times that she has tried to headline a movie, the results have been pretty bad. And even though she won an Oscar, it hasn't propped up her image in the industry much because many felt that Miramax essentially bought her the Oscar to promote the movie, which if you didn't already know is something that happens quite often.
Starting off our list today at number number 10, we have Tom Holland. If Tom Holland dislikes Gwyneth Paltrow, she's blissfully unaware of it, because the Goop founder has no idea who the Spider-Man actor is, despite the fact that they both worked on Avenger films and Spider-Man Homecoming together. Not to mention, Tom Holland has also become one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Nonetheless, in a trivia segment for Pop Sugar, Tom admitted that it breaks his heart to hear that Gwyneth, who plays Pepper Potts, didn't remember Spider-Man Homecoming at all. In fact, she apparently didn't even bother learning Tom's name. Though she did take a photo of him on the set of Avengers Endgame, Tom would then make a comment of the photo by saying, "She was in a blue shirt and I was in a Spider-Man suit. She came up, asked for a photo of me and Rob, and then I think she posted it and said Robert Downey Jr. and myself and this guy. I was just the guy." And indeed, if you head to her page, her caption did merely describe the British actor as the other guy in the photo. Well, at least she did not pretend to remember. Number 9. Jennifer Lopez. In today's world, it seems like Jennifer Lopez and Gwyneth Paltrow have a lot more in common than they realize. With both being multi-millionaires, they also both have very clean diets, not to mention, they even both dated Ben Affleck. So it's easy to forget that the pair come from two entirely different worlds, as JLo is reportedly worth 4 times more than Gwyneth. And she even had to claw her way out of a Bronx bedroom that she shared with her 2 siblings, and against all odds, she somehow made it to Hollywood. Gwyneth, on the other hand, was born into fame in Hollywood, as her father was a prominent director and her mother a Tony Award-winning star. So it kind of makes a lot of sense when it comes to the theory that these two just don't get along, particularly because decades ago their divide was even greater. In 2018, a 21-year-old movie line interview with Jennifer would go viral, and let's just say in the video, Jenny from the block didn't sugarcoat her feelings about Gwyneth when she said, "Tell me what she's been in. I swear to God, I don't remember anything she was in." Some people got hot by association. I heard more about her and Brad Pitt than I ever heard about her work. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Number 8. Angelina Jolie. At this rate, it seems like every powerful woman in Hollywood just has really strong feelings when it comes to Gwyneth's personality or work ethic. And it's also really clear to say that Angelina and Gwyneth aren't exactly the best of buddies. But considering both dated Brad Pitt at one point, it's not really that surprising. Back in 2015, Gwyneth really ruffled Angelina's feathers after she enraged mothers everywhere when she suggested that the mother who works 9 to 5 jobs have it easier than she does as a working actress. When she told Entertainment Tonight, "It's much harder for me," but she actually didn't have to become an actress. Just remember, she chose this career path for herself. Angelina, of course, had some pretty harsh words for the actress, as she would later tell the same media outlet, "I'm not a single mom with 2 jobs trying to get by every day. I'm in a rare position where I don't have to do job after job." And it's clear that her remarks were in direct contrast to Gwyneth's out-of-touch statement. Number 7. Jessica Alba. As lifestyle gurus, you would think that Jessica Alba, who runs The Honest Company, and Miss Goop herself would get along, as they should be besties who love to trade candles and non-toxic household products. However, apparently that's just not the case. According to OK USA, things were in fact very toxic on the set of their TV series Planet of the Apps, as inside sources would claim that the two just couldn't really stand each other. The insider would then tell media outlets that the feud between both women was a lot like oil and water, to the point it was shocking that they even agreed to do the show together in the first place. While Gwyneth may have the monopoly on the celebrity-owned lifestyle website front, it's clear that Jessica is no slacker when it comes to her own national brand of wellness products. As the CEO of The Honest Company, the actress's brand is for every woman. And this is a statement that Gwyneth is just not too keen on. According to the New York Daily News, Gwyneth isn't happy about the comparisons between her business Goop and Jessica's The Honest Company, as she believes Jessica is a hypocrite because she is rich but blogs for poor people, where Gwyneth, on the other hand, is blogging about things she loves, no matter what it costs, like that $125K set of gold dumbbells she once bragged about. Number 6. Reese Witherspoon. When Reese Witherspoon doesn't like someone, she really makes her feelings clear. And while Reese may have made an appearance at Gwyneth's engagement party back in April of 2018, things weren't always so warm and fuzzy between the two blonde Oscar winners, as they actually seemed to keep their friendship close, but their enemies closer, and that's the type of relationship they have. In an interview with People magazine, Gwyneth once insisted that despite having a lifestyle like Reese, Strapper, James, there was generally no competitive spirit between them. However, things were once different, as Gwyneth was once even quoted making a comment about Reese with The Guardian, when she said, "Even with actresses that you really admire, like Reese Witherspoon, you think another romantic comedy. You see in her something like Walk the Line and think, God, you're so great. And then you think, why is she doing these stupid romantic comedies? But of course, it's for money and status." Number 5, Kate Moss. Once upon a time, Kate Moss and Gwyneth were actually pretty tight, the best of best friends, while they were swapping clothes from their luxurious closets. But jump forward to 2012, and the relationship between Gwyneth and model Kate Moss has definitely soured, as the two can't even stand to be in the same room as each other. Back in March of 2012, before a birthday party for Sir Philip Green in Mexico, the clean living actress decided to go for a run before things got a little too crazy. The Sun would then report that Kate even asked Gwyneth why she was running, to which the Oscar winner spat back, "So I don't look like you when I get old," which honestly really isn't an insult if you think about it, as Kate looks fabulous, and I honestly hope I look like her when I reach her age. The model then let loose some of her steam and threw a bag of chips at Gwyneth and told her to eat some carbs. Ooh. Number 4, Winona Ryder. So back in the 90s, Winona Ryder and Gwyneth Paltrow were considered to be two of Hollywood's hottest it girls. And before they even made it big, they actually were the bestest of friends, and they even shared a little apartment together. Unfortunately, apparently you can't stay best friends for the rest of your life, as it was their professional goals that tore their former friendship apart. On Gwyneth's website in 2009, she would write about an unnamed frenemy who was rumored to be Winona. In this article, she would then state that this frenemy was venomous, dangerous, and hell-bent on taking her down. The bad blood between the two former friends apparently began when Gwyneth spotted the script Shakespeare in Love among her friends and called her agent to get her a role. Gwyneth then went on to steal the role from Winona and the Oscar that went with it. And this is why, if you work in the same business as your friends, you never tell them what you're getting up to or what you're working on. Coming in number 3, we have Madonna. So like Winona Ryder and Kate Moss, Madonna and Gwyneth actually used to be really close friends. But if you haven't really caught on to the pattern yet, it's clear that times haven't changed, as once these two ladies were bonding over everything from Britain and a love of music. But once Madonna's marriage fell through the cracks, Gwyneth abandoned her old friend. In fact, the fallout between the two actually didn't happen until the Material Girl decided to drop Gwyneth's best friend forever, Tracy Anderson, as her trainer. Combined with a lack of shared interests, friendship fizzled out, leading to Madonna being banned from Gwyneth's inner circle. To the point even Gwyneth would say, yeah, it's good Tracy doesn't train Madonna anymore. She keeps people waiting and it takes up your whole day. Number 2, Sebastian Stan. Sebastian Stan is another actor that has been cast away from Gwyneth's memory, as like she did with Tom Holland. She has no idea who he is despite working together in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Perhaps it's because of all the brain dust moon juice from her goop products that is really affecting her head. The Captain American sidekick is having none of it. The actor who plays Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, called out Gwyneth after he had to make her acquaintance again during Paris Fashion Week, when he claimed that they have worked together more than once. Sebastian would then take a photo with Gwyneth, where he would later post to his Instagram and say, "Glad I got to reintroduce myself to Gwyneth Paltrow for the 3rd time. They're in the same film." What made Sebastian post even more shocking is that he even tagged her in it. While their characters don't really interact a lot during the film, at least he did have the respect to call her out and do it to her face. But maybe a 4th reintroduction will be the charm, as Sebastian even wants to go there. And coming in number 1 today, we have Martha Stewart. So much like the feud we saw erupt between Kanye West and Taylor Swift, Martha Stewart and Gwyneth Paltrow have been kicking it for what it feels like an eternity, or at least 7. Martha Stewart hurt White's sales. The feud can date back all the way to 2013, but since then it has escalated into a full-fledged war between the two houses. Back when it all began, Martha told Porter magazine that Gwyneth just needs to be quiet. She's a movie star. If she were confident in her acting, she wouldn't be trying to be the next Martha Stewart. That same year, Martha would then take a swipe at Gwyneth's conscious uncoupling from her ex-husband, Chris Martin. And if the wounds from their divorce weren't deep enough, Gwyneth followed it with a goop recipe for a jailbird cake to take a swipe at Martha, as you know she is an ex-con. And the feud between the two lifestyle gurus certainly hasn't been watered down, as back in September 2017, Martha pulled a total Mariah Carey move on Watch What Happens Live when she joked, "Who's goop?" And on the same show in early 2020, she dismissed Paltrow's Coochie Candle customers as just guys who were lonely and in the mood, and now we're all waiting for Gwyneth to make the next move. Starting off our list at number 10, we have practical jokes thoughts. So throughout the trial, there's been a lot of discussion on who really hit who on the mountain while Gwyneth was skiing with her family. With Gwyneth sticking to her story to say she was actually the victim in all of this mess, when she took to the stand, she would also end up being questioned by Sanderson's lawyer, Kristen Van Orman. And during the questioning process, Gwyneth would admit that she was an intermediate skier, and when the accident occurred, she was skiing on a green run, which is known as a beginner or an easy mountain. When she was allegedly hit in the back by another skier. During her testimony, Gwyneth would then say, "Two skis came between my skis, forcing my legs apart, and then there was a body pressing against me. And then there was a strange grunting noise. My brain was trying to make sense of what was happening. I thought it was a practical joke. Is someone doing something? Blank. This is really strange." The actress then went on to say her mind was going very quickly to the point she couldn't even comprehend what was actually happening. Number 9, heels height moment. So apparently Gwyneth is just really tall, exactly like she looks like on camera. But when it comes to someone's height, I don't really think any of us really thought a lawyer would bring it up as a compliment during a trial, especially in a way that wouldn't really be helpful to the plaintiff's case. When Gwyneth took to the stand, her and the plaintiff's lawyer would then have a height and heel moment when the lawyer asked the actor how tall she was. Gwyneth ended up telling the lawyer that she was just under 5'10", but she was starting to shrink. After having a little conversation about their height, the lawyer would then state that she was jealous as she had to wear 4-inch heels just so she could make 5'5", to the point Gwyneth started complimenting her heels by telling her they were very nice. And if the moment couldn't get even more bizarre, when the lawyer referred to herself being small, Gwyneth would then say, "You're small, but mighty. You're actually not that small." Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Point number 8, didn't know it was Gwyneth? Sanderson, who was with a group of friends while he was skiing on the slopes that day when the accident occurred, went straight to urgent care after the collision to have his injuries checked. He then said it was there that he believes his friend, Craig Raymond, told him that the other skier he collided with was actually Gwyneth Paltrow. During his testimony, things started to get a little strange after he said he wasn't into celebrity worship and that he didn't care at the point who he collided with, as it was just wrong for them not to make sure he was okay. To which Kristen Van Orman would ask him, "Did you think it was cool to collide with a celebrity?" To which Terry would then be dumbfounded over the question and quickly responded by turning the question down when he said, "Absolutely not, that's not who I am." No. 7. Sanderson is famous. It seems like this trial is becoming a she's famous and he's famous trial instead of actually solving the overall problem. Why both parties are in court at this point. As Paltrow's attorney, Stephen Owens, has started to point out that Sanderson once even wrote on his Facebook page after the collision when he went on to read a post by saying, "What does he post to his daughters? I'm famous." He doesn't post is that I'm guilty. What he doesn't post is that I'm injured. He doesn't post googly gawk. Is that the right word? Confusing stuff. Paltrow's attorney then went on to reference an email about the collision from one of Sanderson's daughters when he said, "I also can't believe this is all on the GoPro." Although Sanderson says there is no GoPro footage of the collision and such video has yet to come up as evidence in the trial, it has us all wondering, is there actually footage out there somewhere, or did Gwyneth's lawyer just manipulate an email so he could hurt Sanderson's case? However, with a witness named Craig Raymond, who was skiing with Sanderson on the day of the incident, confirming it was actually Gwyneth who slammed into his friend, it's going to be interesting to see what type of bad acting Gwyneth is going to bring up to try to confuse the jury. Number 6, debate over $1. At the start of the trial, Gwyneth Paltrow's attorney would hold on to $1 in an attempt to make it a symbolic moment, as apparently that's the amount Gwyneth is countersuing for. Sanderson's attorneys would then later reference the gimmick by saying Paltrow didn't entirely tell the truth when she testified, she was just countersuing for just $1. By saying, you are also asking, and this is not for the jury to decide, but this is for the court to decide later, you're asking for attorney fees in this case, which could be quite substantial. Is that not true? Gwyneth then answered Van Orman's question by saying, I'm asking for $1 for me and then reimbursement for attorney fees, which is a separate thing. But it seems like they're all just trying to make an example out of Sanderson at the start of the trial by turning him into a laughingstock. Number 5. Grilled about Taylor Swift. Because Taylor Swift once sued $1 in a 2017 trial against a radio station DJ after she accused the DJ of touching her inappropriately, and because of this, Gwyneth would be grilled about her friendship with Taylor Swift when she was asked about what inspired her $1 lawsuit. During the trial, Van Orman also referenced the 2020 deposition, during which she asked Paltrow if she knew about Taylor Swift's suit, which the pop star actually won. Gwyneth then testified that she did not know about it at the time, but she has since learned about it. But due to her bad facial reactions, it's clear that the actor was lying. Van Orman then went on to ask her if she and Taylor Swift were good friends, and it would cause Gwyneth to say no before explaining, I wouldn't say we're good friends. We're friendly. I've taken my kids to one of her concerts before, but we don't talk very often. Paltrow's lawyers then started to object to the line in question, but the judge sustained the comment, meaning Gwyneth was put into an uncomfortable position, knowing her lies weren't going to save her. Number 4. Forgot the attorney's name. Now there's this thing that happens to actors that's actually really funny from time to time, so when we get so into our lines that we worked really hard to learn, sometimes we just get so caught up in the world, within the story we are creating, that we forget what's actually going on around us. And it seems this is exactly what is happening to Gwyneth during this case. During a tense exchange with Sanderson's attorney, Paltrow said she found out later that Sanderson had broken 4 ribs and needed to be taken down the slope in a toboggan. When Van Orman asked if Gwyneth inquired if he was okay, the actress answered, "What is your name again?" "I'm sorry, Kristen." When it was confirmed that this was the attorney's name, Gwyneth then went on to say, "Sorry, I was going to say Kristen." I think you have to keep in mind when you're a victim of a crash, your psychology is not necessarily thinking about the person who perpetrated it. Number 3. Gwyneth's lawyer's apology. At one point during the trial, Gwyneth's lawyers would have to apologize for being rude to the daughter of the doctor suing the Oscar-winning actress. Before Gwyneth's lawyer, Stephen Owens, continued on with his cross-examination of Holly Sanderson Grasham, who was called to be a witness for her father, Terry said he would like to apologize to Polly. When he said, "I need to apologize, as I was being an arse earlier. It was wrong for me to triangulate you, your dad, your sister, and your mom. I asked for forgiveness. I think we can all agree when a lawyer has to apologize for their actions, it isn't exactly a good look for your case." With the lawyer also referring to the tense moment that happened earlier that day, the apology would come after Polly was asked if her dad was actually abusive and a liar, like her sister Jenny said in her deposition. Number 2. The broken relationship. One of the most heartbreaking parts of the trial is when Van Orman asked the plaintiff why he broke up with his girlfriend and why he told her to leave him. Sanderson would then begin to cry, as he went on to say, "I knew she didn't buy into this, but she didn't buy into me not being the same person coming into the relationship." Sanderson had no idea if he would ever be able to get back to normal again, and he said the breakup was sad for both of them, before noting that his ex was now with someone else. Before saying, "And that was the purpose, and I think better than what I would have brought, honestly." It's hard to admit that, but it's true. The accident really injured him, not only mentally but also physically, and that had to be really hard on him, and to think that it made him feel like he changed his views on his relationship is actually pretty sad to think about. And coming in number 1 today, we have the shocking looks. So if you're on TikTok, then you've probably seen a bunch of videos circling around the platform about the trial. Well, in one video circling around the social media platform, if you saw the video, then you can see Gwyneth breaking down and trying to hide her facial expressions in the process, as prosecutors called out her lies. As a prosecutor went on to call out Gwyneth for lying under her oath several times during her testimony, Gwyneth would then start to look completely shocked in the process, as she was struggling to hide her facial reactions, as the prosecutor went on to point out each of these single moments. So it just goes to show that if you're going to lie, at least put an effort and make the story at least believable, because you never know who's going to call you out on it.